All right, I think we're ready to get started. So welcome to Women Transforming Technology and our session, Unlock Joy Through Generous Collaboration. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need for meaningful work to stay engaged in our careers. In this session, we will explore the research behind the theory of generous collaboration and as well as practical steps that you can take to expand your skills and find more joy in your work. Remember to post any questions that you have in the Q&A, and we will have time at the end to get to those. My name is Kim Delgado. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California.
My name is Mandy Botsko-Wilson. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm based in Kalamazoo, Michigan. A little bit of a fun fact. This picture of Kim and I is actually from the last in-person Women Transforming Technology conference in 2019.
Yeah, back when we both had a little shorter hair. So the lesson from this moment in history is not that people are quitting their jobs at historic rates. It's that they've decided to seize the moment and work for something better. Good enough is no longer good enough. Joy is a feel-good fuel that uplifts our work and is a signpost for what really lights us up. Studies show that joy is a prerequisite for and a main ingredient in our success. When we're happier at work, our bodies release more serotonin and dopamine, which in turn gives us greater motivation, focus, and problem-solving ability. This is why experiencing joy at work is good for you, but also why companies benefit from having a happier workforce.
Today, we're going to explore some of the elements that can help you identify and build generously collaborative teams and unlock the joy in your career. Generous collaboration is a practice that is based on your values and supports others' growth as well as your own. For a culture of collaboration to exist within a team, that team must foster psychological safety. Developing an outward mindset will allow you to embrace generous collaboration and, with the other factors, unlock joy. In a study of values across people in 12 countries around the world over the course of 30 years, Shalom Schwartz identified what people value the most. Some people focus on money, and some most value helping others. There are those who would rather have dominance and control over others. Some prefer to simply enjoy life, while others really respond to the needs of others. Some people prefer to care for the disadvantaged, and there are those that really, really like to win. There are also those people that just focus on being dependable. I'd like you to take a moment and consider what you value the most in your life. Not at work, but in your life. Interestingly, people across all 12 countries, including the United States, rated these qualities that are related to generosity as the most important guiding principles in their life. And bringing these values to work can help you maintain the joy in your career. And you can embrace these values to collaborate and grow others, no matter what domain your career is in.
We often feel that the pie of success is only so big, which means that if we include others in our success, our piece of the pie will somehow get smaller. However, it turns out that that's not true. By practicing generous collaboration, we actually expand the pie. As an example, Mandy and I were doing a fair amount of speaking engagements at our VMware user group regional conferences a few years ago, and we noticed how few women were actually involved. At the time, Mandy and I were on a team that had a high level of psychological safety and made us feel secure in taking risks. But we had a very limited travel budget, and we had a lot more demand for the sessions that we had submitted than what we could fulfill ourselves. So we actually went and advocated for budget from one of our executive leaders to support getting more women speaking at our VMUG events. This gave us the budget to travel more ourselves, and we helped identify and mentor other women to share our speaking slots. This is one of the ways that we grew the pie while not having to travel for every event ourselves. And we actually ended up receiving a partnership award from VMUG for all of our efforts that year.
That was really quite a surprise.
That was. Psychological safety is a core tenet of generous collaboration. Within teams, it means that members are open to feedback. It's all about really having everyone on the team, or having a climate on the team where people are comfortable expressing themselves, where people can speak up without fear of being humiliated or being criticized or ignored. And it also means that mistakes are reported quickly so that corrective action can be taken very promptly. People also don't get ridiculed for making mistakes. Those mistakes are addressed, but they're not ridiculed. This enables coordination and collaboration across groups and other departments seamlessly as well. And probably most importantly, it means that potentially game-changing ideas for innovation are shared. So psychological safety really fosters innovation. One of my favorite examples of this is Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's embraces and memorializes their failed and retired flavors in what they call their flavor graveyard, which is at their factory in Vermont, where each flavor gets its own funeral and headstone. This practice helped Ben & Jerry's grow from its humble roots and continues to help them maintain their position as an industry leader in premium ice cream, because it promotes psychological safety by celebrating failures. It enables their flavor gurus to take bold risks and seek inspiration in strange places. I don't know about you, but I, for one, would love to sign up to be one of their flavor gurus.
Absolutely. I love ice cream. What's your favorite Ben & Jerry's flavor?
Right now, I'd have to say it's the Stephen Colbert Americone flavor. That's one of my favorites. But I actually like experimenting with my own ice cream flavors at home. Although I don't take a whole lot of risks when I do that, because I use the Ben & Jerry's recipe book to make my ice cream most of the time.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yes. And it's been ice cream weather here in LA recently, let me tell you. So sadly, true psychological safety is actually uncommon, especially for othered folks or groups that are underrepresented in their team or in their workplace. According to Gallup, only about 30% of employees feel that their opinions are heard at work or count. That means if you have 10 people on your team, on average, roughly only 3 of them feel heard. Think about that for a second. That's a pretty small number. Employee engagement slipped for the first time in a decade from 36% in 2020 to 34% in 2021. This really just confirms the broader trends that we've been seeing all through COVID and the Great Resignation.
Because psychological safety is uncommon, and with it, the generous collaboration that it enables within a team, You may or may not have had the opportunity to work on a team where such safety and collaboration was a part of the team culture. So I have a few tips that can help you recognize the traits that these teams have, either for your own team, or as you maybe evaluate other teams for a more joyous landing place. For example, mistakes aren't held against you. Team members are encouraged to bring up problems and tough issues. People on the team are not rejected for being different, and it's safe to take risks, like Kim and I did when we asked the executive leader for money, budget, so that we could go travel. People feel comfortable asking for help on the team and don't undermine each other. Ultimately, on these types of teams, people's unique skills and talents are valued and utilized. But trust and psychological safety are not exactly the same things. Trust refers to the interaction between two individuals or parties. Trust exists in the mind of the individual and pertains to, a specific other target person. Like I might trust Kim, right, as my colleague, but I might not trust someone new to the team, not yet. On the other hand, psychological safety is experienced at a group level. People working together in a team all tend to have similar perceptions of whether or not that whole team climate is psychologically safe. So while I may not yet trust my new colleague, we would both feel psychologically safe and able to collaborate on our team. Now, psychological safety doesn't guarantee that you'll ultimately have a high-performing and collaborative team. One additional element to consider is whether the team has high standards. Teams that have high psychological safety but low standards can end up in that comfort zone where everyone is perfectly comfortable accomplishing very little. It's only when you have high psychological safety paired with high standards that you have that kind of effective and generously collaborative team that we probably all want to work on. Now, you may ask yourself, what can I do, right, to achieve this? I'm only an individual contributor. Well, individual contributors on a team help create that culture and that climate of psychological safety and generous collaboration of the team through their own actions as much or sometimes more than the boss or the manager does.
So what are the things that you can do to promote a generously collaborative team culture? Let's talk about a few of them. For starters, you can ask good questions and actively listen. By being motivated by genuine curiosity or the desire to give someone a voice, you are able to respond with interest, build on their ideas, and give them feedback. You can encourage respectful disagreements. If everyone agrees all of the time, you never get any better. You kind of get stuck in that comfort zone, right? Good conflict is needed to promote creativity. You can also shut down negativity, especially if you're one of the more senior folks on your team. We saw a great example of this a couple of years ago. Mandy and I were actually in a really large group setting. There was a couple hundred people in a room, and a presenter made kind of a snarky comment to one of the organizers because something wasn't showing up the way they wanted it to in their slides. But they were called out immediately by one of the principal engineers in the room. This wasn't someone who was their manager or even a people manager at all, but they're certainly a leader as an individual contributor, obviously at the principal level. That really helped set the tone and the expectations for everyone in the room when that happened. It's also really important to frame the challenge correctly, or as you see it. but emphasize that no one has all of the answers. And it helps to lower the hurdle for people to feel more comfortable speaking up, especially more junior people. That way you can make it clear that input is welcome because it's needed. When you demonstrate these behaviors, it helps make space for everyone on the team and helps build psychological safety. So here's a few more tips to help you make space for everyone. You can make sure that your workplace feels just a tiny bit more psychologically safe by being vulnerable and using phrases such as, I don't know, I need help, I made a mistake, or just a simple, I'm sorry. You can show your interest and availability with questions like, what can I do to help? What are you up against? What are your concerns? Being vulnerable and available creates a safe place for learning and contributing towards a shared goal.
Kind of shared goal and generous collaboration paired with psychological safety takes me to the example of the CFS2 collection agency. Debt collection agencies buy bad debt from companies and then do their best to collect on that debt. These debt collection agencies often do so with things like harassing phone calls, not even just of the individual, but of their family, their friends, their workplace. They may involve threats or garnishing the wages through the courts. And despite all of this, only a fraction of debts are ultimately collected on. Bill Bartman had already had one debt collection agency that declared bankruptcy, so he decided to do it differently the second time around. And he started the CFS2 collection agency, and he operated on the principle that the reason people don't pay their debts is because they don't have enough money. So Bill framed the challenge to his team to brainstorm ideas about how they could actually help their clients, those whom they're collecting the debt from, make money. And because Bill fostered psychological safety, his team was able to try different ideas to help their clients. And they did everything from write resumes to helping folks find resources like food stamps, childcare, and home repair. In fact, CFS2 rewarded their employees not on how much debt that they collected, but on how many free services they provided or obtained for their clients. Now, you may wonder how successful this type of debt collection agency could be, but it turns out that CFS2's rate of collection was 2 times that of any other firm in the industry. So by taking an outward mindset on the needs of others, Bill's team was able to expand the pie and create a win-win situation for everyone. The Arbinger Institute put together a model for this outward mindset so that you can really focus on your client, whomever that may be, whether that's your peer, your manager, or your customers. In this model, you see others' needs and then first you see their needs, then you adjust your own objectives accordingly, and then you measure based on those adjusted goals. Let's walk through the example from Bill Bartman's debt collection agency to see how that works. The first step you have to take is to see the needs of others. This allows you to understand what others really need to be successful. It will allow solutions that may already exist but are unknown to rise to the surface. For Bill, it was about seeing that people need money in order to pay their debts. Then, based on what you have seen around the needs of others, you adjust your efforts to be more helpful. For the CFS2 debt collection agency, Bill empowered his teams to do what they could do to help their clients have more money. And so for each client, they offered different services, whether they needed car repairs so they could get to work or food assistance to free up money beyond their basic needs. Finally, it's important that you measure your impact, that you focus on what, the impact you are making for others, whether that's your boss, your peers, or your customers. For Bill, that meant measuring his team not on how much debt they collected, but how much in free services they provided to their clients. So when you're aiming to take this kind of outward mindset and evaluate your team and your boss's culture, it can be really helpful to start with a series of questions. You can use these to find out your manager's values, objectives, and needs. So you might consider asking things like, what value does your boss stand for? When you're handling a problem, does your manager want to be informed or involved? With whom does your manager work well? But how could they collaborate better? And what are your boss's passions outside of work? I just joined my team about 6 months ago, and I don't think I could actually answer all of these questions about my new manager, although I do actually know what her passions are outside of work, at least one of them. She loves MotoGP. But if you're new to a team or simply don't know the answers to these questions, Kim, who also recently joined a new team, has had a great idea where she's taken to interviewing her VP to find out the answers to some of these questions and then making them available by publishing them across her entire team. I love that, Kim.
Yep, that's a project that I'm smack dab in the middle of, and I'm really looking forward to getting it, finishing it up. But it's giving me some great time one-on-one with my VP as well. And I've already made the commitment to him that I'm going to also interview all of the managers that report to him and make those available again, because our teams that report up to the same VP are all kind of siloed. And it really will be beneficial to have a little bit more cross-pollination and more cross-team visibility. So I just really felt like it would be valuable for the entire team to get to know all of the leadership a little bit better.
Oh, that's a great idea. I really may have to try to take on that project too, on my own team.
So just to recap, some of the ways that you can use generous collaboration to create joy on your team include embracing your values and focusing on growing that pie, not just for yourself, but for your teammates, for your customers, and your entire organization. You need to lead to build psychological safety on your team. And that's really the responsibility, not just of the manager, but of everyone on the team. And also remember to take that outward mindset when you approach problems and challenges so that you can, maybe find more creative solutions. So as Mandy and I were preparing for this session, we did a fair bit of research, and these were some of the books that we really read that we really enjoyed and gave us a lot of input into this some of the information that you found here today. Definitely check those out if you have a chance. Take a screenshot of those slides, and then I know we have one question in Q&A. But before we get to that question, Mandy, I know you mentioned it before, but Emily mentioned as well that there's a lot of similarities when you were talking about that the process of seeing, adjusting, and measuring, but lots of similarities to agile processes for a social problem. But you had mentioned that you'd seen some information about that, agile and psychological safety.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really great article about how you need to have psychological safety in order to follow agile development processes. So, in order to really be successful when you're agile, you must have psychological safety. And I would argue you also have to have generous collaboration in order for that really to work. But there's some good information out there. I suggest it's not, I don't think in our references, because we didn't end up including that in this talk, but I'm sure you could Google it and find some information there.
Absolutely. So there was one question that was asked. It says, are women and men viewed differently when displaying vulnerability? I generally see men receive resources when they state they need help, but women get things taken off their plates. How can women show vulnerability without seeing her responsibilities and impact reduced?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I think that a lot of this has to do, in some cases, with the power you have on the team, right? So you do sometimes have to pay attention to that structure where, if you are a thought leader on your team, right, you have more opportunity to model that behavior. But I also think it's important to model the behavior even when you're not in that position. Because you can you end up putting yourself into that position of strength when, right, you take that chance and ask for help or display some of that vulnerability. I'm a huge fan of I don't know, and I've used it to great success throughout my career, no matter where I was. But it's always important to say, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Or,
that qualified,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
The other thing I was thinking about with that question too is maybe the way in which someone asks for help, because some people just kind of reach out and say they need help without providing any context or any ideas on what would help them. So maybe when maybe it's more common for some people to say, hey, I need help by, can you provide me with X, Y, and Z, versus I'm overwhelmed, I need help. If you just, kind of throw out the fact that you need help without saying, what kind of help you need, maybe that's another way to make sure that you don't, don't have your responsibilities reduced, but just say, hey, I need help, making sure you clarify that or qualify that request for help.
Right. Like what I need is someone to review my slide deck, or what I need is some help with this particular slide, or whatever thing, right, that may be that you're looking for.
Exactly. Any other questions that anybody wants to pop into Q&A or in the chat? Awesome. I think we're about ready to wrap up. Did you want to show that last slide? Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. So we have the books listed here as well. There were a few other articles that we referenced within this talk, and there's more information here about those. As well as we've spoken previously on generous collaboration with slightly different takes and tips and tricks. You can watch some of those recorded sessions on the VMworld sites from 2020. We did a session about harnessing the power of collaboration to drive your success. And then in 2021, last year, we had a really great panel about driving innovation through diverse collaborative teams. And I love that one. And those are all available free on the VMworld website. And you just have to sign up for a login, and then you can see those recordings. And I see a final question coming in from Emily about what made you choose to be passionate about and research this topic. Collaboration is something that has, for me, really driven my success. And so a few years ago, I started thinking about it more as, what are the factors, right, about my success, and how does collaboration really work? And so I started reading up on the topic, some of these books that are on this list and some others as well, because I thought this is the kind of information that I think sharing with others could help us all grow and be more successful and collaborative.
Yep. And since we like collaborating, we've worked together on this on various flavors of the session over the last 3 years or so.
That's right. Yeah, Kim and I love to work together and collaborate on things. So I'm so glad that this is a topic that we share amongst others as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll talk soon.